one day you may have something simple you're dealing with, another day it can be the total worst. So that's what happens, and that's why it's important for me. I take it seriously where I do debrief, even if it's after a very draining session. If I know that there's a colleague that's like, we have accountability buddies basically, and if
Okay.
I know I can pick up the phone and say, listen, yeah, I've had a bad session, this is what has happened, I just need to vent, or it was taxing on me mentally. And that's what I do, and that's how I cope at the end of the day. Because I mean, if I had to go to bed without doing that, I'd most probably land up in the loony bin. Mental wellness within the communities and seeing what society has to face on a daily basis, I think that's where what drew me more to it. And just wanting to educate people that as much as we worry about illness and like the physical aspect, nobody realizes what role that plays on your mental health.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Zen and Now, your go to source for wellness, mental health, and healthy living. I'm your host, Kishan Morar, and today we have a special guest with us today, Bhavini Dalpat. Bhavini is the owner of Bubble Out the Box and a certified wellness counselor dedicated to helping individuals, young and old, to find balance and healing through accessible mental health services. She's changing the game for mental wellness. Stick around as we dive into Bhavini's journey, insights, and tips on living a healthier and more mindful life. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. So, Bubble Out the Box. Where did it originate, and how did you come up with the name Bubble Out the Box?
So initially, the goal was to study medicine, but that didn't happen. So my second option was psychology, and got into that. Did my undergrad, and after doing my undergrad, obviously the field of psychology to find jobs is very scarce. So I did a lot of volunteer work, helping out in the community, and just trying to get a bit of experience. And
Right.
through that, I obviously then registered through the ASCHP to become a certified wellness counselor. But obviously, Bubble Out the Box was founded before then. It was founded in 2017 while doing work within the communities. So I'd assist with the local community policing forum, where we'd assist with trauma incidents where it's an accident and people require trauma counseling, or domestic violence, and guiding people on how to open a case, what needs to be done, what's the procedures and protocols to follow, removing girls from drug houses, that sort of thing. And obviously, it's where I realized that I do have a passion for what I do. And then, as much as it was a free thing at the time, you realize that it doesn't pay the bills. So at some
Right.
point, I decided, okay, I need to now focus on building my practice and making it affordable for those who can afford it, but still doing what I can do for the community.
That's
The
amazing.
name, the name, so I played around with a lot. How I got to this name, I'll be honest with you, at this point, I don't remember, but it stuck. Um, and I think it says a lot about who I am as a person, in the sense of I'm never somebody who stays, what's the right word? I'm not somebody who stays in a box. I like to think out of the box rather. And I
Okay.
always try to find a solution. And if I know I can't find it, there's definitely somebody who can help.
Somebody else. Right. Right. Okay. That's interesting. It's yeah, like you say, it sticks. Bubble out the box. It stems from so much of like aware. Like I don't know how to put this, but it's such a unique name. But it's like what we're all going through right now. We
100%,
yeah,
100%.
we're living outside of our bubbles right now. What we actually. I mean, myself growing up in Indonesia, we live in a little bit of silo because of you know our history and the history of the country, and now coming outside of that, living away from that community, you kind of like living outside of the box, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
So no, amazing. And your pro bono work, I'm sure that was like so fulfilling. How did it feel like, you know, when you I know building a practice, it takes time and stuff, but the pro bono work is as much as important as your your practice clients. And I'm sure like a lot of people also need that outlet, because let's be honest, it's not cheap also to see a therapist in this day and age. So to do that work, I commend you for it. It's truly amazing, and we need a lot more people out there actually offering their services, you know, in both spectrums.
Definitely. And I think, you know what, it's why I said it's a passion. You have to be passionate about this. Like, it's not for everybody. Not everyone's cut out for it. So I know a lot of my colleagues, some of them who can't handle certain situations. And if I mention something, it's like something that they're not comfortable with. So if I have to say, for example, I'm dealing with a missing child or kidnapping, for me, it's actually become second nature.
Right.
And I say that not in the sense of I've normalized it, but I've just learned how to deal with it.
Right.
You cannot get emotionally attached. And I learned that um, very early on while I was still doing my undergrad when we did a bit of ComServe, and we were dealing, or rather working with terminally ill kids in a hospital. And the one child actually was in remission, and next thing he was full-blown cancer throughout his body.
Wow.
And doctors still said, no, by the time you guys are done, this child will be okay. Anyway, long story short, that was not the case. At some point, he got admitted because his health did take a turn, and he was in a ward, pipes, monitors, the works. And the group of us, there was about 5 of us at the time, we came together and we understood that a child shouldn't be in that situation. So the agreement was that day we all would go home and go and get something small that this little boy could play with in the ward on his bed. And I obviously came home, and the first thing I did before I even reached home was go to the shops. And I don't know if you know the small Hot Wheel cars.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I went and I bought him a set of that, and I still said I'll go in a bit earlier the next day.
Right.
Anyway, went in a bit earlier, and as I walked through the ward, I can see the mother crying, and I'm quite confused at this point. And when I asked the nurse said to me that I was literally 5 minutes late. The boy
Oh
had
no.
passed on. And I couldn't even see the mother. I couldn't do anything. I went back upstairs and I said to my supervisor at the time, I cannot do it today. We can wait for the rest of the team to come, but I need to be excused. I
Mm.
got home and I realized that I cannot get emotionally attached. Like, you need to know where to draw the line.
All right.
And since then, I've just taken that approach. It's not saying that it's a cold approach, because I can relate, I can be empathetic, but I know that I can't get emotionally attached. So you deal with different clients on a daily basis. And like you said, pro bono, pain, but some cases, not everyone can afford the full fee.
Mhm.
And that's where we can negotiate. Some people just phone for advice, and I'm open to giving it, because you know when somebody wants the help. If somebody wants the help, they make an effort. So you don't
Yes.
mind helping.
Right. No, that service is truly lacking in today's practices. I know a lot of people. I know the corporate companies offer that free service, but you also have to be an employee to access
Mm,
those
mm.
services. Whereas now Bubble Out the Box, offers those to everybody, um, whether you can afford the full price, or what you can afford, which is, I think a lot of people would actually like love to have that option open to them as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And going back to your, you said you distance yourself, or you like remove yourself from feeling, too close to the incident. Just I had went through the list of your services, and just types of trauma counseling, and I see you do like there's a lot of deep and uh, deep traumatic experiences that people go through. And for yourself, how did you practice to like remove yourself? I know it's not like just a one day thing. You probably had to have some form of like training. Can you run us through like what form of training you had to actually like take yourself, just to feel all those things?
So I don't think I never necessarily had any formal training. I think it was something I learned through experience.
Mhm.
But with that being said, something that I do consistently is that I debrief. So I debrief with other colleagues, and I do that because, as much as people think that you can cope, it's the same like doctors in medicine.
Mhm.
They see different cases on a daily basis, but you don't know how that affects you. One day you may have something simple you're dealing with, another day it can be the total worst. So that's what happens, and that's why it's important for me. I take it seriously where I do debrief, even if it's after a very draining session. If I know that there's a colleague that's like, we have accountability buddies basically, and if
Okay.
I know I can pick up the phone and say, listen, yeah, I've had a bad session, this is what has happened. I just need to vent. Or it was taxing on me mentally. And that's what I do. And that's how I cope at the end of the day. Because I mean, if I had to go to bed without doing that, I'd most probably land up in the loony bin.
Yeah, they say therapists also need therapists, right? Or counselors also need counselors. Because I mean, at the end of
100%.
the day, you're absorbing all those energies. It's taxing on your mind and just your body as well. I mean, we've gone for so many. I've done so many Reiki sessions and therapy sessions, and when you come out of it, you're mentally exhausted. I can just imagine the counselor or the therapist on the other side has to do this for so many other people, and listening to so many different scenarios. So that's a it's good that you have that outlet. And in today's world, like, what's the general type of trauma or mental health issues that you're seeing in your practice?
So it ranges, hey, it really does range. And I think because I deal with different ages, it's different across the different ages. And amongst the teenagers, one of the biggest things that we are faced with is suicide, or rather suicidal thoughts or self-harm. So, and that's a lot between your puberty ages, your grade 8s, your grade 9s, 13, 14. And it's mostly girls where they attempt to cut themselves, those sort of things. And when you ask them why,
Hmm.
it's now, I wanted to know what it felt like, or I'm tired of life. So it's come to a point where the younger generation doesn't necessarily have resilience anymore. It's not
Hmm.
like where before you knew that if something had to happen, pick yourself up, dust yourself, and move on. It's
Yeah.
not like that anymore. So that's something that lacks. Parental involvement is a big void at the moment, because you see it with the kids where parents tend to just throw money at their children versus spending quality time with them. So there's no discipline anymore, there's no morals, there's no values. So kids are basically, I don't want to say going off track, because they don't know what the track was to start with,
Yeah.
because they weren't guided in that way. So that, in that sense, that has changed a lot. Society has changed. I think it's more societal change in the sense of we're becoming more westernized.
Hmm. Interesting.
And then obviously on the adult side, it's a lot of divorce is a big thing at the moment. Nobody really tries to make it work anymore. And the strange thing, it's not the older generation, it's the younger
Hmm.
generation that's just gotten married, and 2 3 years into the marriage, no, I don't love you anymore, or I'm not happy with you, or I found somebody else. It's that sort of thing.
Okay. Yeah, we were just chatting about it, this exact same thing which you said last night, and um, the ability to see things through. The resilience built. I think we had, growing up in the 90s, from 80s, 90s, we had good people behind us to actually guide us. Uh, we had tough people. We had empathic people. Our teachers were pretty good at that. I would say, like, me growing up in a sports environment, I had pretty good leaders. I had mentors. I had pretty good people telling me, okay, this is what you need to do. If things don't go right this way, find another way. There isn't just one outlet. You can find ways to get through things. But I,
Yeah,
I I agree with you in this. I call it the digitized age of growing up, and people are so much more in tune with information or have access to information.
yeah.
It becomes just too much. Where when our days we just had if we needed information, we had to walk to the library. We had to actually make an effort, to go and get it. And I
100%.
think
The
that was
days of an
taken to me.
encyclopedia is done.
Yeah. And I think that's where probably why you're seeing so many more uh, adolescents, because everybody wants to fit in, right? In your adolescence years, it's about fitting in, right?
100%.
It's
100%.
not
And
about
it's, yeah,
fitting in
it's
and
doing
just,
these trends
yes,
and who's doing what better. Yeah, or who's got what and they don't have it. It is. It really is. And unfortunately, technology plays a big role in it.
mhm. Before we continue with today's episode, if you're enjoying it, if I could ask you for a small favor, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It will not only help the channel grow, but it will also allow me to bring you a lot more guests and a lot more experiences. Thank you. Back to the show. And like you said, also parental involvement is also very minimal in because they probably also don't understand why. The why. Why is my child doing, or why are we going through all of this? Because you would say just get over it and move on, where it's not the same anymore.
Yeah, but it's also this new concept of what they call, because this is what I've been told, gentle parenting.
Okay, and what does that entail? What is in?
So, according to what people have said, it's basically not doing what our parents did. The total opposite, where you're, I don't want to say entirely protecting your child, but obviously it is the concept of my child can do no wrong, and it's always blaming the next person for their behavior and
Okay,
trying to sugarcoat the bad behaviors by justifying it.
not taking accountable, not taking
Exactly. So there's
for the
no
action.
consequences. Yeah.
Okay, no repercussions for that action. It's just
Mm.
it's not my child's fault. It's the
100%.
external
Yeah.
factor.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. How do you cope with kids that are just? Have you seen any success? In your with kids who actually like come to you? Do they progress?
So they do, I won't lie, but the only time you see that is when there's involvement from a parent. So generally the kids that come to me, it's because a parent has brought them out of concern. That's why. Otherwise, generally not, because then when you see, and when you can see somebody wants to be in a session versus they don't want to. I
Mhm.
mean, just yesterday I had a client that was brought to me, and the mom said to me she doesn't talk much. And
Mhm.
that's not the child I seen in the session. So I was like, okay, obviously she doesn't have the right people to talk to. So that makes a difference. It's
So it's
sometimes we fail to realize that all they need is just somebody to listen. That is all.
okay. Yeah, I think it's just that safe space where they can express how they're feeling at that point in time.
Yeah.
No, it is a pandemic. Well, it is an issue in today's age, but not just adolescents. I think our generation as well, between like 30 and 40, it's or even beyond, where you're saying a lot of people are just not sticking with something that's a bit challenging. um, but I don't know where we it's difficult to see a way forward, actually, because everybody wants the instant gratification now, you know and I feel like we actually going backwards instead of forward. you know so and in your terms, bubble out the box, is it just yourself, or do you have other wellness practitioners as well?
So it's just myself, but obviously I do have a network where I can refer to um, other counselors, psychologists, OTs, your speech and hearing therapist. But within Bubble Out the Box, it is just myself.
Okay, so I just want to go back to you. And how did you how was what was your upbringing like? Where did you grow up, and what was like the point where mental wealth, or health, or wellness became a passion for you?
So, brought up Joburg South in a fairly, I would say, I morals, values, still Indian culture. Obviously, my parents had moved out of the old Indian areas, and they were like one of the first non-whites in our area. So I think that played a role. In school, I'll be brutally honest, I never had an Indian friend. So for me, that was normal. For me, it was always mixed. I didn't know what it was like to be in a predominantly Indian environment. So even growing up, if I had to go to Lenasia or Lodium, it would feel very awkward. Not
Okay.
in a bad way, but just because I knew that I don't necessarily fit in because of the environment that I come from. So we were,
Right.
I would say I was privileged to a certain extent that I was allowed that opportunity. Um, Mental wellness, if I have to say where it started, I cannot pinpoint. I'd be lying if I tell you where it started. But it was, so obviously, like I mentioned, medicine was always my first option.
Mhm.
But I'll be honest, matric for me was a game. Like, I didn't take my matric year seriously, so I had to settle for my second option. And now, like when I see matriculants, I'll tell them just put a little bit more time and you'll see the difference. Because
Mhm.
obviously, I know if I did that, I would have obviously been somewhere else. But I also feel I am where I am because I'm supposed to be here.
Yeah.
So it was my degree, my undergrad, and I think more so working within the communities and seeing what society has to face on a daily basis. I think that's where what drew me more to it. um, and just wanting to educate people that as much as we worry about illness and like the physical aspect, nobody realizes what role that plays on your mental health. I
Mhm.
mean, if you're working in a stressful, toxic environment, it's gonna play a role on your mental health. It's not just gonna affect you physically. So I think in that aspect, it's more from what I seen happening daily and the challenges that people are faced with.
No, the two are interlinked, right? Because when you're feeling stressed, your body feels it, and when your body is tired, your mind feels it.
100%.
I know for myself, when I'm like anxious or having an anxiety uh, experience, my body feels it. I don't have the same kind of energies. My
Mm,
body, I feel like I'm losing a lot of weight. That's me. So the two are interlinked, and I agree with you when you said people like the misconception that the mind is not as strong as it is. It actually is, controls everything.
it is. It
The
is.
entire neural network of your body is controlled by your mind. And the one thing I want to point out is you said you had two options when you were studying. I think that's so important because a lot of people just have their primary option, and when that doesn't work, then there's nothing else to fall back
Yeah.
on. So, and do you see that more like in terms of like the adolescents and who actually like want to get to or pursue a certain career, and they put all their eggs in that one basket?
So currently, I think it's on two completely opposite spectrums here. The adolescents of today, or the teenagers that I see today, it's you get the extreme where okay, we want to study certain things, but it will be three different options in three different faculties altogether. So we look at medicine, accounting, and let's say marine biology. So they're not even related. We're
Mhm.
looking at complete different things. On the other side, you'd have these teenagers that are no, my parents own a business and there's money there, so I'm gonna take over because I've got this. It's my inheritance.
Okay.
But I think where the fault there is that inheritance does not last forever.
Right.
And not everybody is business minded. So if you can't pick up the reins and run with it, it doesn't mean it's necessarily going to work.
Hmm.
And I strongly feel that in today's times, it's important for anybody to have a qualification of some sort because it opens doors.
Right.
Your matric doesn't give you much. It's not as valuable as what it used to be back in the day. I mean, I'm sure you know our current pass rate is 30%. So that
Yes.
says a lot. It says a lot. And it's scary because that's literally what our youngsters aim for is just to pass.
The
Because
minimum.
that's all they need. Yes.
No exceeding expectations or trying to push themselves beyond that.
Exactly. And I think with that being said, you'll find that a lot of them don't even have ambitions to study at a university or to go into further education because they've settled for the bare minimum. So there's no drive to do more.
And do you think like the whole influence is taking over?
To a certain extent, I would. So I also work at a school as a school counselor. So I
Mhm.
see a lot of this, and it's also that culture of my parents are there, they'll say to me, or I'll find a job because we connected. I know somebody that knows somebody. So that's the concept that they have. And
Okay.
again, I say, as much as we say no, it's okay, you don't need to study, you don't need to go to university, but what do you do with the 30% in maths, for example, or 30% in business? Where does that take you?
Hmm. Yeah, not far.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. And I mean, it's evident when you go sometimes into the universities. I mean, even if you go into some of our government facilities, you'll see some people cannot even read and write. We have an issue at the school currently. And keeping in mind, I am at a private school. We have issues where we have grade 8 learners. So that's your 13, 14-year-olds that can't read and write
Wow.
because they don't have the foundation.
Wow. And that
And
then leads to what you're saying in your practice.
exactly. And not just that. Remember something, our system, our education system says learners aren't allowed to fail. So all we do is progress, progress, progress. Even if they are not coping or they're not meeting the bare minimum, they're just being progress until they get to matric, and then what?
Is that well? That's new for me. I mean, we haven't been in haven't heard that before. But is that what it is now? It's just progress,
Yeah.
and
So
so
a
that
learner
that
can only fail, I think, once or twice a grade, or once a grade and twice in the same what's the word, in the same foundation basically.
okay.
So that's the whole concept. But then too, your department will come and say to you, adjust marks, so that they
Uh,
can be promoted, they can be progressed. And unfortunately, it also comes back to parents, because parents don't want to, no, they wouldn't want to accept that their kid isn't doing well.
yeah, but there's two parts to it, like the parents' responsibility and the teacher's responsibility. It's just as much as the parents' responsibility to actually make sure that the kid is actually, looking after his education, as just as much as it is the teacher who's actually imparting that knowledge on. So I think,
Those days are gone. Those days are gone. That's why I said parental involvement is close to zero. Parents, if a teacher has to pick up the phone and tell a parent, parents will say, when they're at school, it's your child, not mine. So you deal with them.
given the fact that new age parents are our age, I mean, the between the 70s, 80s, 90s kids, that's the new age parents right now. Um, Given what we've learned, I mean, surely there should have been some form of parting knowledge of how to navigate life. But or is it that is it that you're saying that parents are now uh, comforting and you know hugging kids too close to the heart to not go through those traumas that they did?
But you see, now here's the thing, it's not necessarily comfort in that sense, it's the wrong form of comfort.
It's like overprotection.
It's become a monetary thing, it's become a very materialistic form of comfort.
What do you mean?
So to find a parent that just would hug a child and say it's going to be okay is very rare. You don't get that. It's not like, I know it's not like we had it easy growing up. I'm not saying our parents did that. But I think what's gotten worse post COVID is that everybody's just trying to make a living. So that's what we're
Mm.
pushing, because everyone's too scared of losing their jobs or finding something better. So that's the priority versus the kids.
Oh, okay, I see what you mean. So okay, I see what you mean. Makes sense now. So the neglect is from one part to the other. And that's where you're seeing
Basically.
a lot of these kids and a lot of people struggling with their mental wellness nowadays because they just don't know what's going to happen.
And remember something, a lot of these kids are now from broken homes because parents have split.
Uh,
So kids like that know how to manipulate either parent because they've learned. And because the parents aren't necessarily on talking terms, the child knows what to use when with which parent.
okay, okay. Subconsciously controlling both sides of the
Yeah,
narrative to get their way.
yeah. And it works. Believe me, it works.
I mean, it must be like pretty challenging for you. I mean, to navigate or to like help somebody come away from that thought and start thinking for themselves.
So it depends. Remember something. If it's a teenager, you can still assist because I mean they know the difference between right and wrong. When it's much younger, it is a bit more tricky, but that's why parents then need to sit down together and come up with a plan. Whether
Mhm.
it's a parenting plan or whatever it is, but they need to be on the same page. It can't be one is saying red and the other one saying blue. And I think that's where the loophole is that the kids know that this is happening. Let's be honest, the children today are not naive. They are
Mhm.
quite aware of what's going on, so they can see when their parents aren't on the same page. I mean, if a child goes to the parent and says no, can I do this, mom says no, dad says yes, they're
Yeah,
gonna know who to ask.
100%. Yeah, we see it. I see it a lot too as well, where one parent is on the other one foot and the other is the other, and then the kid feeds off that, and they're like, no,
Exactly.
okay, this is where I can get where I want. Whereas if like both parents are on the same foot, the kid knows how to stay in line,
Yeah.
and then you reduce the amount of how do you say, uh, I want, the I want phase. Yeah, it's a bit of a scary like time to be. It's not scary, but also a good thing in my eyes because we actually like starting to bring all of these issues up to the surface, whereas before it was just under the rug, never talked about, never spoken
Yeah.
about, and
Taboo. It was taboo before.
yeah, and a lot of now these platforms are out there. We speaking up about it, um, also going through our own challenges, our own demons which we're dealing with. But
Mm.
the more we speak about it, the more we get it out there. I think we trying to give that generation a bit more of the easier rope to pull. You know.
Remember what that being said, our generation, so like we said, 70s, 80s, 90s, they trying to break generational trauma. That's
Mhm.
what they're trying to do.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. That's the word, generational trauma. And like it's interesting. I was listening to Trevor Noah's podcast the other day on Diary of a CEO,
Mm.
and he stated that we all just pieces of porcelain that have been cracked or broken, and are trying to put those pieces back together. Just to try and look or feel good again.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're doing an amazing job, I must say. Like it's not an easy thing to navigate somebody away from a traumatic incident or experience, and to guide them to the light. And we need more of that in our societies. Do you feel like we're getting there, or do you feel like we still have a long way to go?
To a certain extent, yes, but there's a very long road still ahead. Very long road. And I think, you know what? As much as I may do what I do, there's a need for more people in the sense of being passionate about it.
Mhm.
A lot of people go into it with the idea of becoming a psychologist and just collecting that money at the end of a session. It's not that simple. Um, you need to be hands on. You need to actually develop a connection with the person, develop a relationship so that they can also feel that you're actually actively engaging with them. And I think that's what's more important. And it's something that in general we don't have anymore. I mean, how many
Mhm.
people actually have patience? When people go to the shops, for example, and the cashier's slow, you can already see they're frustrated. People have lost the patience.
Hypersensitivity to get things done, the rat race, so to speak.
Yeah.
So is that where you feel? I feel like my own experience, just to give a bit of context, is growing up in Joburg, South, also Lenasia, Gauteng, whatever it is, and growing up in that fast-paced world where you wake up 5 a.m. or whatever, you get ready, you go to work or you go to school, you come back, you got your extracurriculars, whatever it is, and then you get into adulthood after school, and then you have to travel, and it's constantly moving. You constantly be moving.
Mm.
There's no time to rest. Um, Even when you do get the time to rest, your mind is still racing. Where when we moved over to Canada, we actually had to slow down our pace of life, even in the workplace, because coming from South Africa, you hustle, you make sure you get your tasks done,
Yeah.
your whatever projects you have going, you make sure you get it done at a certain time, and you also expect that from your colleagues. Whereas over here, we've learned to like slow down a bit, and also take the time out for ourselves, knowing that life is not gonna stop because you can't get it done. You have to look after yourself to actually get that job done. And we've actually now, even in the winters when it's like a little bit colder, yeah, we make sure that we even go outside for like 5-10 minutes, just to
Mm.
just to reset ourselves, get some fresh air into our bodies, and then come back.
Which is important. It's very important. And I think what people have failed to realize, and I say this to a lot of my clients, is that me time is important. As
Mhm.
much as we're busy trying to make a living, seeing to the family, or meeting tasks, deadlines, whatever it is, taking time out for yourself is so crucial. People tend to overlook it, but you don't realize that while doing everything else, you lose yourself in the process. So when I sit with a lot of clients and I ask them, but who are you?
Mhm.
Nobody can answer because they don't know how to answer that question because they've lost so much of themselves. And it's
Right.
important, whether it be a hobby or sitting for 10, 15 minutes, an hour, reading a book that you enjoy, just something for that moment where it's just about you.
Yeah, I think the word also, or the feeling comes to mind, is selfish. People feel they're selfish for giving that time to themselves, that they should be just giving themselves away to the world, so to speak. And coming from our societies, how it is. When people are just sitting idle, what are you doing? Are you lazy? Why are you just sitting and doing nothing? You're
Yeah.
supposed to be doing something. Whereas in fact, did you ever ask the person how you're feeling? Is it something that you're going through, or you need a 5-10 minutes? Sure. And that's where patience come along. We need to understand that we need to give that side of that person that opportunity, just to like decompress.
And we need to be supportive. I think that's important, to be supportive of each other. Everyone's entitled to have a bad day. I mean, nobody's going to have 365 good days. It's impossible.
No, it's non-existent. That doesn't exist. There will be, even throughout the day, you probably feel like you'll be happy at one point, and then the next
Exactly.
minute you're like, oh, your mood changes.
Hmm.
So I guess this persona, or this perception that we have, that we should be perfect all the time, and also should be eradicated, because nobody's perfect. You could be perfect at being not perfect, you know. And the impact
And
of
it comes back to self-acceptance. I think if you as a person accept yourself wholeheartedly, self-love, then you wouldn't worry about everything else. So, yes,
Mhm.
family is important, your partner, your kids. I'm not saying no to that, but it's important to focus on you first. And if people want to label it as being selfish, then that's what you should be, because the saying goes, there's no point filling someone else's cup if yours is empty.
Yeah, I always use that analogy of the plane. Put your own mask on first before you help somebody else.
Exactly.
Yeah, you have to own your own oxygen filled before you can give yourself 100% of yourself to something else. And I think a lot of our mothers actually also have done that. They oversell themselves in our household help. And also our parents also, like, one was the homemaker, the other one was the financial provider.
Yeah.
And that was it. you know so And the impact of it is on the kids, and the impact is on generations after that. Not saying our parents didn't go through anything; they probably have their own traumas, which they've then imparted onto the next generation
Yeah.
because it was never dealt with at source.
And remember, their traumas was never spoken about because
Yeah.
those things were taboo. You don't speak about it, you deal with it. And remember, now that you also mentioned one was the breadwinner, one was the homemaker, those roles have reversed.
Hmm.
It's no longer like that. So now you'd see the wife being the breadwinner and husband's the house husband as it's labeled. So I think that also impacts a lot because things have changed. It has.
And do you feel like that's where teenagers are molding themselves against, especially like you said, girls are like they thrusted upon this, they call it boss babe uh, era where they've got to be like CEO, they got to get to a CEO level, they got to get the money, they got to do everything, and they're putting so much pressure on themselves that they just can't handle it.
So it to a certain extent, yes. I've seen it, and like certain clients that I've spoken to, especially the male clients, they'll say that, you know what, the working environment is becoming a bit tough. And when you ask why, and automatically when they tell me that the person they report to is a female, as a female, I'm not saying, no, I don't agree with women being in power. No, there's nothing wrong with it. But what we fail to understand, there's certain aspects in a workplace that does not need an emotional approach.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, women were built that way. They are going to be emotional.
Yeah, it's just biological. That's the way it is.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, you can't have a male figure under you expecting him to understand your emotional approach. It doesn't work. So I think as much as females feel that they need to be, like you said, in this boss babe culture, I'm not saying no to it by all means. Yes, if someone's capable of doing the job, give it to them, male or female.
Yeah.
But also, with that being said, understand that your home environment and your professional environment are two different things.
Yeah, it's about finding the balance.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I asked this question to everybody because it was put towards me. And where do you find, or what is your perception of work life, or that concept? What does it mean to you?
Many people are most probably not going to like me for saying this, but
No, it's okay.
I strongly advocate that when you start work, by all means, yes, but when you knock off, that's the last of it. I don't see the need to be working after hours because it filters and it ripple effects on your home life, on your relationship. So there needs to be that balance. So if you have a 8 to 5, then work your 8 to 5. Why are you bringing work home? So I am that person. I do not bring work home, as in for my permanent job, I don't bring work home. Whereas bubble out the box, yes, that I do, but that's because I have flexi hours. So that is different. But I mean, normal, you need to have a cutoff, and it's not just for your families or for others around you, but for yourself. You cannot be eating and breathing your work because it's going to affect you mentally. It really will. I mean, I have a client, funny enough, she spoke to me today, and she's in quite a demanding role, and
Mhm.
it gets to a point where she takes work home, but she has like a 2-year-old child. And when she sat in with the powers that be, they said to her, no, why doesn't she hire a nanny so she can focus on her work, a living
Wow.
nanny? And I thought to myself, okay,
Wow.
that's definitely their solution.
Wow. I think she probably needs to find that balance of, and also stand up for herself and say, you know what, look, if you want me full hearted here, I've got to be 100% at home. I've got to give
But
myself.
remember something, post COVID or during COVID, the demands were very different. So remember, because a lot of people were working from home,
Okay.
they pushed hours. So no one had a work home balance. It was just work,
Yeah,
work,
yeah.
work because we forgot. So that culture has become normal because people are still working from home. Some people are still at home permanently, some are in and out every alternate day. So it hasn't really made things any better. And
Okay.
because there's no travel time, to go to work, people expect, okay, so because that's out of the way, you can do a bit more work. It's an
Yeah,
expectation.
we've pushed productivity
Yeah.
over the edge.
Yeah.
Whereas now you could be on call 24/7. Doesn't matter. Even, I mean, you connected via mobile. You can connect from anywhere. You have email on your phone. You probably have Teams, or whatever
Mm,
I am on your phone. You're constantly connected. It's that. I mean, it notifications, constantly pinging. I mean, where's your mind focused at one point in time? I used to be like that, whereas I had all social media notifications coming through on my phone, on my watch, whatever. But I decided, okay, let me just turn them off, and I just have the general notifications coming through, because at least I know when I am going into my social media, that's when I'll see the
yeah.
notification and then interact with it there. Fully focus yourself in that task at that point in time, and then go to another, which is I struggle with till today, is finishing a task and then going on to the next, because my mind is so busy 24. Like, I that's why I incorporated yoga and meditation in my life, because I needed to slow down. I needed to
Mm.
learn how to just sit and be with me. Otherwise, I was just all over the show.
And it's important, and I think that's where your boundaries come in. What's okay and what's not okay. As an individual, you have to establish that as to what am I okay with in the workplace, what am I not okay with. And it comes back to, yes, as much as you need a job, you can't be a pushover.
Yeah, it's about setting boundaries, right? It's it's once you let somebody manipulate you, that's when you lose your power. You know, and it should never be that way. We always ask ourselves, like, what did we do wrong to that person or to that entity
Mm.
to make them treat us this way? Why? Whereas you've done all that you can. You've given so much of support and love, and you're not getting. It's not like you should get anything in return, but obviously like respect. Respect earned is respect gained.
Yeah,
And I think we also need to do that with our mental health and physical health. Respect your mental health just as much as we respect our physical health, because the two go hand in hand.
exactly. Exactly.
And from an impact, from a progressive impact or progressive stance, like, where do you see the trend of mental health within your own experience? Where do you see it going?
So I think more and more people are open to talking about challenges that they are faced with. So that's a good thing. But I think it still comes back to educating people on the fact that it's okay not to always feel okay, to understand that you're allowed to feel a certain way. There is people to talk to. So I think it's basically breaking the stigma around it, because I know the stigma still is there, where if you go to a therapist, you go to a counselor, it means there's something wrong with you. And it really doesn't. So I
Yeah,
think it's still breaking that. But we are moving towards a more healthier mental wellness space, because people are more open and they're more inclined to ask for help. Like, it's not as bad as what it used to be before, where people wouldn't at
right.
all.
No, that's a good thing.
Mm.
I think the progression is there. A lot more people are speaking, expressing how they feel, especially the male counterparts. Uh, Whereas females always
It
had
is.
that emotional side where they could express how they feel, which is also exceptional, because in a relationship, when both express how they feel, it's just healthier, even if it comes across as a bit argumentative or a bit heated. But at least the way you feel is coming out, and how you
Yeah,
like, you cannot control how the other person feels about it, but at least getting it off your chest, and you're expressing how you feel, which then bodes well, because, like you said, a lot of divorces, a lot of separations, because they don't express how they feel.
100%. And that's why you'd see now. So I've been seeing that a lot of couples in counseling. And it's simply because they've forgotten how to communicate. So they prefer having somebody as a buffer. And when you sit with them, they'd actually look at each other and be like, but we could have just told each other this. So it does make a difference. And it's not to say that all marriages will fail. No. It doesn't mean you go for counseling, that's your end result. No. Sometimes it's something so small that's made you drift. I mean, children is one of those things. Children actually, I'm not saying they create a wedge, but because generally the mother will focus on the kids, she forgets that she has a spouse. So that's what's been
Mm,
happening. So it's obviously breaking that as well, and obviously learning how to communicate better. It's finding healthier ways to communicate.
do you feel like one way to communicate is actually writing it down and handing it over to your spouse if you can't express it verbally?
100%, yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a better option because remember, if two people are complete opposites, where one person is like, okay, we have an issue, we need to resolve it now, and the opposite person is like, no, I need to process, them arguing it out isn't going to make a difference.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, because a lot of people aren't very, because they get nervous when they get into situations. They don't
Yeah.
actually then express or verbalize, punctually. They don't get their words out. They mumble. I'm like that. Like I need to like literally be calm to like express. If I'm in a zone of just like argumentative and that's it. I can't really think.
Mm,
It becomes a challenge. So that's why you have to like just take a few breaths, just settle yourself down, and then
yeah,
really listen to what they're saying.
exactly. And sometimes it's okay to take time out before addressing an issue. And that's what people fail to understand.
Yeah, patience, right? Like you said, patience as well.
Yeah.
So is there any like techniques or ways to people that you express or you've given that it can help somebody else listening to this podcast going through what they going through at this moment, just general techniques or general things that they can do just to help them along.
So I think the most important thing is that if someone is faced with any challenges with their mental wellness, is reaching out to somebody, because there's many people that would assist. And I mean, the fear of judgment is there, but people that are within the space, they will not judge you. They cannot judge you. It's complete strangers, so they shouldn't have that. They unbiased. So I think it's knowing that there is a safe space and knowing that whatever you're going to discuss remains confidential. There's no way that confidentiality can be broken unless obviously they harm themselves or they are harm to somebody else. But other than that, it's safe, and there's nothing wrong with speaking out. It actually takes a whole weight off your chest. It
Hmm.
does.
No, thank you for that. I'm sure a lot of people listening would probably not have that knowledge, and now that they do, so thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
um, and just to go back to your own journey, um, I know that you said medicine and psychology were on your radar. Um, do you still use medicine today to help you along your journey?
No, no. So to all the doctors that are there, forgive me in advance. I'm not that person. So luckily, where my offices are based, I'm in our office space with doctors, and thankfully, we all share the same ideology with that. Um, I know a lot of people do turn to antidepressants, but what I've seen with a lot of clients is that as much as they may be on them, it doesn't resolve anything. It just hides whatever they're feeling. So when they do come off it, it feels like they've been hit by a train simply because now they don't know how to deal with the emotions because they've
Right.
been suppressed for so long. So, nope, I generally would say rather not. Let's deal with what's causing you to feel that way. That's
Okay.
what's more important. I'm not saying it's a complete no, because in some instances I do understand it is necessary, but not in all cases.
Okay. Just a side note, I take antidepressants, but I also I do a lot of my own work on while I'm on it. So it's not I'm totally dependent on it,
Okay.
uh, because I know that's not the end and all. Because I went through a phase where I was weaned off,
Mm-hmm.
but then I had an incident and I had to be put back on. But it was uh, my own decision, because I knew at that point in time I needed it, and it's a journey, so I have to stick with it. uh, but you're right. It's rather, if you can avoid it, sure, but if you do need it, make sure that you're also doing the work on the other
Exactly.
side of it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's not just that you're given this tablet and it makes everything disappear, because that's the misconception.
Oh yeah, because the tablet takes what, 6 weeks or so to take effect. So there's a
And
lot
it
that could
also
happen.
depends. It depends what you're given. That's the other thing, because some medication may not agree with you. So then it means doctors have to play around with medication.
Yeah,
So it is something that also has to be tried and tested.
yeah. Like I was given, I went through an episode of depression, and I was diagnosed by a psychiatrist, and she gave me antipsychotics, which she shouldn't have. Um, and when I went for a follow up with another psychiatrist, and he was, thankfully, he probably saved my life, um, because he was like, you don't really need that, and
Mm.
he gave me the correct doses that I needed, just to be on an antidepressant, and that helped me along. So, like you said, it's very touch and go. You have to go to the right person. You can't just go to anybody, um, and you got to also just be aware of the person that you're sharing with as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. And like obviously with mine, what I do, I can't prescribe any medication, but I can recommend herbal stuff that may work. So that's what I would do. But obviously, if it gets to a point where you see no progress with somebody, then you'd have to refer them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you guys know exactly where person is in their
Yeah.
journey. You probably uh, prescribe something appropriately, like you said. I mean, there's a lot of over the counter stuff that you could take, to calm yourself down, herbal medicine. Also, there's a lot of, you know, all the spices that we use every day in our food contributes towards that.
Yeah.
All the holistic stuff, and there's so much of resources out there now. I think we are making good progress, and we
No,
we will get there.
definitely.
And that's
Definitely.
why I also started this journey, is just to, like, listen and get people's opinions and how they feel, where their journeys are, real stories in life where, it could help somebody else. And, we never know.
No, definitely. And it will. I mean, even if it reaches one person, it's one person that wouldn't have known something before.
Yeah. I'll share with you a success story from this podcast, is that I interviewed a Reiki and holistic practitioner as well. Um, and I've known her since childhood days. We were also born and raised in Lenasia, went to the same schools. And actually, a friend of mine also was in the same class as her, actually needed healing at the time. And she didn't know she did this. So, inevitably, the two got reconnected, and the one is getting the healing that she didn't know she could get from somebody that she could trust.
But it goes to show how many people you can touch. And it's so close to home you wouldn't even think that something like that would happen.
No, exactly. Um, Advice. Somebody who's actually thinking about going into the psychology, wellness, psychiatric profession, what advice would you give?
So in South Africa, in the South African context, I'd suggest that they do the full extent of research that they can, because it is a long road ahead. When I say that, obviously, when I got into it, I didn't know better, in the sense of, to actually become a psychologist, you need to have your master's. And to get into master's in SA is very difficult. And that's the only way to register with our Health Professionals Council. The only other way to become a registered counselor with them is if you do a BPsych, which is offered only through two institutions, Cornerstone and SACAP.
Okay.
And unless you come from a very wealthy home, those fees are very nice. So I think it's just do your homework, but be passionate about it when you get into it, because it is a long road. It's a long road, and the job market and all of that is not as fruitful as one would like it to be.
Okay.
So you have to have patience. You have to have patience, and you have to have the drive to want to be in this field and be a people's person.
Okay. Not don't be shy to get into the dirty work, like they say.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Amazing. Thank you for that. I'm sure a lot of people, especially kids and even adults, like who are wanting to change careers. That's some good knowledge to have. And bubble out the box. Where do you see bubble out the box going?
So essentially, I do want it to grow. It is something that I want to see myself doing permanently, at some point. And I think it's just making an impact on lives. That's why I see it. Not just for my gain, but for other people to gain, whether it's knowledge or conducting workshops, whatever it is, but knowing that there's a safe space where somebody can reach out, I think that's the most important thing for me.
Okay. And where can people get in touch with you?
So I am on all social media platforms. I can be found on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, those sort of things. And there is my contact details is on there as well.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'll leave the descriptions below for this podcast to Bhavini's practice. And yeah, guys, if you ever feeling the need to reach out to somebody, she's definitely somebody you could trust with your experience. Um, but I asked this question to all my guests at the end of the podcast. What's next? What's next for you? And just you. What's next for you? Not your practice. Or what's next for you?
I think the world's my oyster. So I always love, I wouldn't say I love, but a famous saying is that you die once but you live every day. So that's me. I'm that person. Currently I am completing my master's, so I think that's my big thing.
Oh,
Other than that,
amazing.
I'm seeing where life takes me.
Oh, and life has been good to you so far.
Touch wood, yeah.
Yeah, like they say, live in the now, right? Live in the present. No, amazing. Oh, but thank you, Bhavini. I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your journey and experiences and thoughts. I think this will help a lot of people out there. And I wish you all the best in the future. And I can't wait to see what Bubble Out the Box, does also.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
No, you're welcome. Until the next one, guys. Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.